Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and checking out this interview. And I've got Greg Clark from In Lieu of Flowers. Greg, why don't you give us all an introduction to who you are?
All right, thanks, Ryan. Great to be here. Yes, the name is Greg Clark. I am located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm one of the founders of In Lieu of Flowers. I'm also a funeral home owner called Church Funeral Services and Crematory.
Fantastic. So you know both sides of the biz then.
Yes, I do.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm intrigued by In Lieu of Flowers because In Lieu of Flowers is something that has been put in obituaries for ever, it seems like. So just give us all kind of like why In Lieu of Flowers and the gist of what you're offering with that program.
Well, you're right. In lieu of flowers had been putting out bids for forever, and the tradition of sending flowers started centuries ago. And in today's world, the reason was to cover up odor, which
Mhm.
today is not an issue. So it has kind of continued. And when we were having multiple day wakes with funerals, yeah, flowers was a big thing. But now the tradition has changed to where it's a 1 day funeral. More and more cremations and families don't know what to do with the flowers because on a cremation they might not be, going to the cemetery. So instead of and families struggling to come up with a place to donate the money, we just like, okay, well, we'll do a little flowers. We'll set up a way for the friends and loved ones to make a donation to the care and memorialization of the deceased, collected to the funeral home, and then later they can decide how they want to use the funds.
So this is kind of embedded right into the online memorial page, right through the funeral home's website, or is it going, from the funeral home website to an In Lieu of Flowers page?
It's going to Lieu Flowers. It's ILOF.com, the abbreviation. And the campaign is set up there where they can have multiple photos. There's places where people can leave comments. And it's just a embedded link within the funeral home's obituary. The success of it depends upon the family sharing. So
Mhm.
they can be shared directly from Facebook, social media, because that's where people learn of deaths today.
Sure. Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
read the obituary. So
That's right. So I mean, how big of a part does crowdfunding play in this?
it's the concept behind it as far as being able to people have accepted crowdfunding as far as making donations. When I talk to people, typically 50 and below, like, do you send flowers? No. I would rather make a donation. So it's accepted in the fact that they can do online donations. So the donation part then, as far as how the funds are used, is dependent between the funeral home and the family.
Okay, so the family then can choose to have the money that's donated go towards the funeral, or they can choose a organization to donate the money to, or is the consumer choosing what organization they want that money to go to?
The family does. So the
Okay.
family of the deceased makes the decision. And in my personal experience with my funeral home, about 70% of it is actually spent with the funeral home. So they buy additional merchandise, they buy urns, they upgrade their service. So instead of maybe having just a direct cremation, they're going to have a traditional
Okay.
funeral followed by cremation, keepsakes, jewelry, headstones. We've had some families that's had to use the money though for travel. So they have loved ones outside of town, couldn't afford to be at the service, so they purchased airfare. Um, so about 70% stays inside the funeral home for products and merchandise, where the other 30%, go to a nonprofit, where they say, I want to donate it to a St. Jude or to American Cancer, or in some cases, a local hospice. We've had
Mhm.
several where they want to give it to the hospice that's been caring for their loved one. And that hospice facility doesn't have the technical mechanism for people to make online donations. So it's perfect. So then it comes in, and then the funeral home can write the check directly to the hospice on behalf of the family.
That's excellent. And I think it's important to mention, as you and I were talking before we started this, that the funeral home is getting the funds that are collected, right? It's not going directly to the family like a GoFundMe or something along those lines.
That's correct. No, the money is collected, and then the funeral homes establishes the campaign, and once it expired, the money is transferred directly, auto deposited via ACH to the managing funeral homes account.
That's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to put my funeral director hat on and play devil's advocate a little bit. Like, this sounds extremely complicated to set up for the funeral home with new websites or landing pages and things. Give me that process.
It's a very simple process. The funeral home establishes an account, just creates a login, and then whenever it's a simple create a campaign, you cut and paste, you put in the very basic information, deceased name, date of birth, date of death, the expiration of the campaign, and then you just attach photos just like you would if I were attaching photos to you, and say save, and it's up and running.
Sounds simple enough. Sounds like a couple minutes.
Yes, that it, especially if the obits is already typed up. I mean,
Yeah.
typically that's the longer process for a funeral director
Right.
is
Right.
working with the family to do it. So
And so you can work with any funeral home or crematory or cremation society, regardless of website provider that they use.
correct. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's totally self-independent. So, and most funeral homes, if they notice today, if they look at their websites, I mean, Ryan, you're a social guru. The majority of the traffic is coming from social media to their obituaries.
Right.
So that's where the traffic's already coming from. So now it's just a matter of embedding that link and sharing that link or sharing that link directly with the family. So then all of that comes from. So if you look at my web traffic on ILOF.com, 90% of it is social media.
Yeah.
The other 10% is coming from the funeral home website. So it's typically coming from social media.
Well, I think that's important kind of to notice too, that that's not traffic being driven by the funeral home from social media to that. That's the family sharing that and getting behind it because it's something that they can take a little bit of ownership over and be a part of, which I think is important. I mean, are families able to use the money towards the funeral service, or are you having funeral homes encourage that the family use that money towards additional, like the headstone and or a keepsake or something along those lines?
Now, the majority that stay in house, the bulk of that, as far as the dollars, is used for funeral services.
Okay.
Either where and we've had a number of families that come in and said, we would love to have a memorial service, but we really can't afford it. All I can do is do a direct cremation. We set up an in lieu of flowers campaign, and within a couple of days, they have more than enough money for exactly the type of service that they really wanted to have for their loved one. So that's the real advantage to that side of it. Now, yes, we were going to take care of them, but it's the memorialization that they really wanted and the type that they wanted to be able to have for their loved one. So it's the bulk of that money that stays goes towards some type of the service.
I love it. I love it. Is there a fee associated with this for the funeral home?
No, it's not. There's no membership. There's no sign up fee. Standard credit card processing fee of 2.9%. And then there's a 5% fee that goes towards the platform. So 7.9% total.
That's awesome. I mean, it's a fantastic platform and idea. I mean, it's important that the funeral home can not control. I think control is the bad word, but I don't know what better word to use. I guess make available to the family the option for this because, I know as a normal consumer, we don't love to send flowers and when someone's in a different town and you don't have a relationship with anything there, the sympathy stores on the website are great, but they don't always have the product that you want. Like, there's a lot of things that make it difficult, and even donating to certain organizations is difficult when it's done through a printed obituary or even an online obituary, because not a lot of times there's a link to that organization to give that online donation, which means writing a check. So, like, I think this is fantastic. If a funeral home wants to engage with you and take part in the platform, how do they go about doing that, Greg?
They can go to ILOF.com. There's a contact us. They can call me directly. There is actually, it can totally be signed up online. There's sign up instructions right there, and they can just go in, create their account, and off and run it.
Man, sounds simple. Self-serve, self-starter, and
That's it.
start serving your families a little bit better with options.
especially right now in the environment that we're in. Not a lot of funerals going on, so it's a perfect opportunity.
Yes, it is. All right, Greg. Well, thank you for coming on and telling us about In Lieu of Flowers. Kudos to you for putting together such a valuable platform.
Thank you. I appreciate it.